Okay, Mr. Chair, the waiting room is empty. You have a quorum, clear to proceed.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's March 14th, and I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order at 5:03. And we're going to start off with consider FY24 updated operating and capital budgets, and Mitch will touch on that for a minute.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, starting with operating first, we came out of Finance Committee last week with their approval on all of the budgets, including the enterprises. You have also done your approvals, but there's been some adjustments since then. So we're seeking your approval this evening on those adjustments. So specifically from the last set from Finance Committee, since that meeting to now, we got our Essex Tech assessment, which was $80,000 less than we anticipated. We had previously had to remove 74, so we've made some, excuse me, some adjustments relating to that. So we have the document that you have in your files. We have decreased Essex Tech to its actual assessment amount. We've increased that. We've put money back in the labor reserve that we had to remove, 25,000. We've put 5,000 back in sick leave buyback that we had to take out. And as we had discussed a number of times, but specifically at your budget hearing, if we were able to add funding to the planning board department, the planning board for a town planner, we would endeavor to do that. So the amount of money that you have before you in the budget is $50,000 towards a town planner position. In reality, that will likely not cover a full-time position, but the intention is that gets us going in the right direction. So we're able to fulfill kind of one of the bigger items that that has been discussed and fulfilling that need, or at least working towards fulfilling the need to getting a professional planner on board. So happy to take any questions from the board on that, and then seek your approval on the amended FY24 operating budget.
Any questions? Selectman Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mitch, was that anticipated, the Essex Tech, the smaller number, 80,000, or was that just, we were just pleasantly surprised?
So it was a pleasant, well, it was pleasant surprise budget wise, but in reality, we sent less students, which, you know, knowing that there's always a need for going to Essex Tech, it's unfortunate that there are less going. But financially, it does help us. So that was really, there was a good sized drop in the numbers.
Right. I know Essex Tech is quite competitive these days.
Yeah, so yes. I don't think they're letting as many kids in. Like I believe last year that only, just like, I think it was coincidentally, but only girls got in from Rockport, no boys, which is interesting.
I'm not sure what they used for, certainly what their methodology is, but just I know that there are less Rockport students attending. I'm not sure of the rationale behind that, though.
Yeah, I'll have to check with the school committee on that to get some information.
Yeah, it's I know the enrollment's up to about 1,500 kids, and they are going to be joining the Cape Ann League in the Kenny division, so the largest division. But so that we will be playing Essex Tech on a regular basis.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'll take a motion if anyone wants to make one.
So moved.
So Mr. Chair, I just offered that a proper motion would be move to approve the amended FY24 operating budget.
Anyone want to so move that one?
So moved.
All righty.
I'll second.
All right. No further questions. I'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Wilkinson.
Aye.
Selectman Murphy.
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly.
Aye.
And Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. All right. Next up, we have consider placement of articles on.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. We have capital.
Oh, capital budget. Yep.
Sorry about that. So again, because of the timing on our free cash approvals, we're a bit out of order on recommendations and timing for capital. So as you're all aware, CIPC met for approximately 6 hours last week, over 2 days, analyzed the department requests that came in, reviewed the recommendations put forth, and transmitted approvals to the Finance Committee. The transmittal to the Finance Committee from CIPC was unanimous. Finance Committee considered the recommendations at their meeting on Thursday evening, and they also unanimously approved all of the recommendations related to Articles 6, 6A, and 6B. So they are moving forward to town meeting. Again, this is a bit out of order. Normally, you would have had your approval prior to it even going to Finance Committee, but it's important that we fully close the cycle here for the board. So the Article 6, 6A, and 6B recommendations, I'll share the screen for those. Again, these are as approved by CIPC, recommended by CIPC, and approved by the Finance Committee. So they will be transmitting to town meeting. Can you see the recommendations? Okay.
Yeah.
So this,
Perfect.
this-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Selectwoman Donnelly.
Yeah, thank you. I had a question through the chair. Looks like we're going to be borrowing more than $12 million. And I guess I just would like to understand what is our outstanding debt situation, and is this going to do anything to our rating?
Good question.
Sure. So we are borrowing over three different particular areas. Again, we have the 1.5 million out of the general fund. There are 2 borrowings out of the water enterprise and 2 borrowings out of the sewer enterprise. The finance director reviewed that with CIPC and the finance committee. And based on the overall capacity that we have for borrowing, we're not in a bad spot for it. Our intention is always to minimize borrowing whenever we can.
Right.
We're at a point, and I've said this several times in CIPC and with finance committee, where we simply can't put off some actions relating to our water and our wastewater infrastructure.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely agree. Yeah,
Both of the funds, according to the finance director, are in a fine position to handle the borrowing. Again, those will have impacts on the rates because water and sewer are obviously rate driven. But we are at a point with those particular areas where if we do not put some investment into those, it's certainly not getting any cheaper as we have issues. And regardless of any, I think an important point to make, particularly for wastewater, regardless of any ability down the road to potentially share services with other municipalities relating to wastewater, we still have the expenses and will bear the expenses for the pipe in the ground and our pump stations and the facility that we have. So we are at a point where, while the numbers are not what anybody would like to see, we're at a point where we're really at a kind of a crossroads for this. We must begin to make some investments, particularly on the wastewater side, in light of what happened with Dock Square and the age of the infrastructure. We need to start to make some investments on that side, particularly, and stay ahead of whatever may come for us from DEP. We've not gotten a significant finding from them yet, but I'm sure that they'll circle back around to us. We need to be showing that we're making some progress in those areas. Otherwise, especially with wastewater, we face the potential of an ACO, a consent order, and the possibility of really kind of losing control of the process if we enter something like that. So those were not recommended lightly to CIPC, and I know CIPC and Finance Committee did not recommend those lightly either, but found them to be, in essence, really just what we have to do at this point so that the system does not get worse. This is not a one and done for these accounts, but this makes some significant progress forward, so that we don't get into a position where our state of good repair is so poor that we can't get out of that hole.
yeah, I have no quarrel with the work getting done. It's obvious that we need to do this work. I guess my concern is our water rates in particular are very high. And we never talked about whether we wanted to use any ARPA funds toward these projects, and I know we could.
So you can, and I know that that's something that is the board's intention once the survey results are back to
Yeah,
have that discussion. And we also, based on the board's vote last week, put applications in through Congressman Moulton's office for federal funding for water and sewer infrastructure. So that would be your choice if you wanted to, if we were able to get anything from those. If you wanted to apply it to reduce the borrowing or have that be in addition to, that would be a decision that this board would make once we get word if there's any type of award associated with it. So there are some ways, should the board choose, that could lower that. It won't lower the overall amount of work and cost in the long run,
Yeah.
but it could minimize a particular set of borrowing down the road.
yeah, I guess my concern would be just to offset the effect on rates that people, residents pay. In particular for water.
Sure. And I
Okay.
do know that there's in discussions with the director and the assistant director, they're going to be having some conversations with the commissioners. I do know that they are anticipating looking at a rate study to figure out kind of where we are and get some data points on where we fall with everybody else. We know we're on the higher end.
Yeah.
But also what we can do if there are any recommendations, including tiered system for rates. They're going to be looking at
Okay.
all of the options that could be helpful in the long run.
Great, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Can I just add on to that,
Yep.
Rose? Yeah, great points, Denise. So, and if I understand it correctly, this just authorizes us to borrow, this just authorizes the spending if needed, but between now and then, if we decide to use ARPA funds or Congressman Moulton's money comes through, we can decrease the amounts we actually end up borrowing, right?
Yes.
Mitch?
So these are baseline authorizations.
Yeah,
We won't actually go out and do a full long-term borrowing for probably a year or two after the work starts. And the board certainly has the opportunity to offset these as we move forward.
And despite money coming in, this isn't the end all be all for the money we need.
Yeah.
We're gonna need more than
Yeah.
that to
Yeah.
Yeah.
get
Correct.
up to date, so.
yeah, and
Understood.
we'll also have to do kind of a cost benefit to, just for example, if we decided to use, $1 million of ARPA money for something like this, like what would be the benefit of using that versus borrowing that million, knowing
Right.
that,
Mhm.
but I
Sure.
think we have time on that, which is good. Just a note also, I was at the finance committee meeting at the end of last week when they unanimously approved this as well. So,
Mitch, if you wanna.
Sure.
touch
So
on
you've got the free cash projects here, which have also moved forward. Again, based on the amount of free cash that was available, and the amount that was agreed to by this board and the finance committee towards capital projects. We were able to recommend a significant amount to move forward, including clearing through some lists for departments to address some of their outstanding needs. As you can see on here, many important projects, some of the more routine things, some of the more one-off items that are important that we need to do. I'll draw your attention to the digital codification from the town clerk of the charter and the two sets of bylaws. I mean, that's a pretty substantive move forward for things. So as well as some of the more run-of-the-mill vehicles, equipment, facilities and infrastructure projects that you see in front of you.
Oh, no, are we gonna get rid of our old forest fire truck?
No, so this is a standalone all-terrain vehicle.
Okay, good.
So
All
this
right.
is meant to go into the woods where the trucks can't get into.
Okay, yeah, that would have come in handy last summer.
Yes, so we have some gators that go in the particular brand name through John Deere. Those are a little bit larger. This one actually has an enclosed cab and it's called a side-by-side. It's got equipment space and it's got the ability to transport someone in and out if there's a need to. Based on the amount of time in the woods and the issues, this one, it was pretty clear to CIPC and then Finance Committee that there was certainly an ongoing need for our public safety departments for this type of equipment.
Great.
yeah, it's great to see the money spread amongst so many different departments. I know a lot of the school items are items that, weren't the highest priority, but are things that really need to be done. And have been sitting on lists for a few years. And it's great to see forest fire, DPW, and obviously fire department. And I know that our office has been able to help with the new chief has brought some other requests. And I know that our office has been able to fulfill those as well, which is great.
And just so everyone knows, with Dr. Branco, he said, to us, a lot of the things for the school looks like just maintenance, but he said for him, it's more of a safety for the kids, especially with the window upgrade and stuff like that. And and the new tiles, opposed to the older tiles that are there now that can cause, I don't know what the causes, but it's got all the chemicals in them and stuff from the old.
Yeah.
I don't know what it actually causes, but just so, everyone knows that for them, they see it as a safety issue, but most people would just view it as a general maintenance overall.
No, I agree with all these items, and it's the cost of doing business when you're running a town. You have to maintain it. So these things are obviously necessary. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
And then you've got the parking meter fund, which is the annual ask for the police cruiser replacement. That's paid for again through the parking fund. And then the transfers for the water enterprise free cash and sewer enterprise free cash. Because of the size of those free cash amounts, it was approved that those move into the master capital accounts for each of those respective enterprise funds.
All right. Any other questions? I will say that Mitch and the team, what did you guys miss? Maybe 2 items, 3 items overall, really over the overall ask.
And they were, the CIPC was able to move forward with all the asks from the school, all from fire, all from forest fire, all from IT.
Wow.
And probably 80% from DPW for free
Wow.
cash.
Wow.
So a
That's
really-
significant dent in the needs.
And just to touch on, I don't know if we did it in a selectmen's meeting or if it was the CIPC meeting, that a lot of the money, well, about half of it came in from what would food and room tax from the hotels and the restaurants in town. So it was, I think that's 2 years in a row. We had 2 good years.
Yes, and we did, as discussed in another meeting, we did adjust our revenue estimates because we've had 2 years of higher than previously forecast. Still staying conservative on those revenue estimates, but bumping up enough based on what is at least a 2-year trend at this point.
All right,
Great.
I'll take a motion to approve the capital budget.
I move to approve the capital budget for fiscal year 24.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. Selectwoman Wilkinson,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. Now we'll be moving on to the placement of articles.
Okay, I will share the screen. So Mr. Chair, today is simply to place the articles onto the warrant.
Mhm.
The intention will be that we'll seek your recommendations and stances at your next regular meeting. So again, today is just to place them onto the warrant. So the article stance list, we have our standard articles for the FY23, our transfer accounts. FY24 1 through 6B are all the standard articles. A through E, again, are the standard articles. F is the creation of a special fund. It'll either be an enterprise, it'll either be a stabilization or a revolving account specifically for the opioid use disorder funding that we get in, that's coming in over a number of years. And the state has particular recommendations on how they would like us to be tracking that funding. G, there's a single item from the Government Bylaw Committee for edits to Chapter 14 of the Code of Bylaws. There are a number of citizen petitions. So we've got them kind of broken up a bit so we could accommodate what we have here. I see I've got to fix a article order here. We have citizen petitions to adjust the number of signatures needed for the special town meetings. one for term limits, one that impacts the ability to move the question and the participation in the meeting. One seeks edits to the charter, addressing language that specifies except where mandated for certain boards to serve on other boards. We have, I've got to make that adjustment. My apologies. I'll fix that. We have all of the zoning articles that were not passed from the last meeting. So basically J through R, which is what I need to fix there. Again, I missed that in shifting. They've been assigned the same article number. So that needs to be fixed, which I will do right after this. Those are the carry forwards from the last meeting. The planning board had their public hearing on that on Thursday, which was very well attended. Citizen petition relating to the code of bylaws and some wording relating to the Affordable Housing Trust and the removal of a designee portion, wording from the board. Citizen petition relating to the notice of anticipated motions, a 48-hour notice. Citizen petition for explaining why an article is non-binding. Two citizen petitions addressing the freedom to serve and the number of boards that somebody can serve on, impacting two different chapters of the bylaws. Citizen petition for the quorum at the annual town meeting. Citizen petition for recall of elected officials. Citizen petition for minimum occupancy period for the ADUs. Two zoning citizen petitions. A citizen petition, which is a resolution relating to the response of questions, and the standard ad hoc water report. So as the board is aware, the citizen petitions move forward onto the warrant. The rest, with the exception of one or two, are your standard articles that carry forward. It is a large warrant, but it is what it is. I would say it's pretty much pretty fixed on what we have here relating moving forward. And again, tonight is simply to place the articles, and stances will be at your next meeting pursuant to the chair's determination of that. So I'm happy to take any questions. Otherwise, I can offer a couple of suggested motions for the board to consider.
Mitch, in terms of the start of the town meeting, am I correct? We're going to start a little earlier than previous years?
I believe the board indicated an 8:30 start on Saturday.
Yeah. Okay.
At your last meeting.
That should help.
There's no other questions. We'll just get the motions over and get the public comment.
Okay. Mr. Chair, proper motion would be move to place the FY23 articles as submitted onto the annual town meeting warrant.
Do I have so moved? In a second?
Second,
I'll second that.
All right. If there's any further questions, seeing none, roll call vote. Selectwoman Wilkinson,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Chair, next would be a motion for your consideration would be move that the board approve all FY24 articles as presented, and further that the town administrator be authorized to prepare a warrant on your behalf for your signature, and to include the ability to adjust article numbers based on need and preparation.
So
So,
moved.
Do I have a second?
second,
All right. Roll call vote. Selectwoman Wilkinson,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we will prepare this. I'll fix those lettering adjustments on here. And we will prepare that again. We'll indicate when it's ready for you to sign, and then we'll get it posted. And then we'll move forward with that. So it'll be prepared for your signature outside of the meeting, and we'll let you know when it's ready.
All right.
That is all I have for you on that item, Mr.
All
Chair.
right. At this time, I'll open it up to the public for any comments.
Okay, Mr.
Jamie
Chair,
Kennedy.
Jamie Medea, name and address for the record, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, as always, for your excellent service. Jamie Medea, 2 Holbrook Court. It's a question of clarification. I couldn't understand what just happened. Will the articles on for the town meeting include or not include Article J on multifamily by right for the R district?
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
Selectman Donnelly?
Yeah, but I attended, Mitch, I think they removed the multifamily by right provision from that article, Jamie. So it's only the other provisions that were within that article.
Will
So
they be
art,
making that during town meeting though? Is that correct?
yeah,
So-
they're gonna make that,
Yeah.
motion during town meeting. Yep.
Through
The
you,
planning
Mr.
board-
Chair.
Yep. Go ahead,
Through you,
Julie.
Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. I think there's two things to be observed. One is a lack of clarity on that exact point. People in town don't understand that they have to actually vote on a change being made to what is presented. I don't know what to do about that, except I'm confused. Now I understand, yes, they're putting this on the article, but it is going to change at town meeting pursuant to what Select Person Donnelly said. So if there's any way to get that out, that would be very helpful.
You wanna
So
clarify that,
just for
Mitch?
clarification, we are also, we're awaiting the final report of the planning board, which we expect to receive after their meeting on Thursday. Then we'll be able to publish where their stances are.
Thank you. I also couldn't understand, did they include or exclude leaving on the warrant, leaving on the town meeting agenda, the proposed coastal overlay district, or are they withdrawing that?
All of the items that were not acted upon from the last meeting are moving forward to this meeting. What their recommendations will be and adjustments, we'll need to wait to see what Thursday brings. And as Selectman Donnelly said, they've had some discussion on that. But functionally, J through R carried over to this meeting, subject to edits recommended by the planning board on the floor of the meeting.
Thank you very much. I'll observe that they said at the meeting, it was said at the planning board meeting that people hoped they would withdraw it. So we'll see what happens. And my final observation, just to be extremely crystal clear, it was mistakenly said at the planning board meeting that the zoning matters wouldn't be heard until the second day of town meeting. Then that was corrected because Bob Visnick came forward and said, no, we're hoping to get it all done in one day. The sooner you can get out and the more clearly you can get out that people should show up on the first day, if they have interest in zoning, the better. Thank you very much, all of you, for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ross, we should make it clear at our meeting also, our
Yeah.
next meeting, that town meeting is scheduled for one day and nothing is scheduled for separate days. It just goes until it doesn't go, which I'm sure is what Bob said. Bob's raising his hand.
Bob, do you want to touch on that topic, or
Yes.
do you want to? Okay.
No,
yeah,
I did say that and try to correct that impression. I wasn't at the beginning of the meeting, but Jamie told me that's what occurred, so I attempted to correct that. Also, regarding the presentation of Jay and what the planning board may withdraw, I think fundamental fairness, because of the way the previous meeting ended, I will give extra time if they decide not to move something. I don't think they're going to withdraw it, but they decide not to move something that was previously moved. I will give the participants in the meeting the chance to move it themselves. And regarding Jay, I think there was a pending amendment. So I'll just mention that as well, because I think in fundamental fairness, we want to put people, even though it's a different meeting, we want to put people in the same position vis-a-vis the presentation of these articles as they were at that meeting, to the extent that they weren't heard on that day.
Next up is Toby.
Thank you, Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street, and thank you to Bob Visnick for what he just said. It was my amendment to Article J, which we stopped in the middle of. And I would make that and all of the other amendments that I offered before as the articles go forward. It was said that the planning board might offer alterations or amendments to the articles that they got on the warrant. The planning board is bound by the same rules that all other citizens are bound by. That is, they limited it changes, possible changes to things that have been added in bold and things that have been stricken. That is a line drawn through them. And they have no more right to make other alterations to the proposed articles than anyone else. And if Mr. Visnick is still on the call, I'd like to hear him confirm that. I think it, a pity that so much has been added onto the warrant, but I understand it's inevitable. For another time, there is a section in the zoning that says that we want amendments to the code of bylaws and the zoning bylaw confined to the fall town meeting. That's written in such a way that it's not enforceable or binding, but it was a sensible intention. However, the way things are structured, and apparently this is out of state law, cuts against that and makes that unlikely. It's only 10 signatures to get a citizen's petition or article onto the warrant at the annual town meeting, that is the spring town meeting, and for any other town meeting, it is 100 signatures, which is a considerably higher bar to hop or hobble over. So if your board wanted to encourage people to do what the bylaws encourages them to do, that is to get articles related to the bylaws and the zoning bylaws onto the fall town meeting warrant and not clutter up the annual town meeting with such articles, you could do that by altering your policy on articles for town meetings and agree to accept with 10 signatures articles for the fall town meeting when 100 is what the law requires. I ask you to consider it.
Thank you, Toby.
Okay, Mr. Chair, Z Sepula.
All righty.
Yes, Z Sepula, 92 Granite Street. Am I being heard?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to comment on something that happened a couple of weeks ago. A meeting of the Community Preservation Committee, I believe, where they had as a guest, a speaker from the State Community Preservation Coalition, somebody that's been doing this stuff for 18 years or somewhere around there. And he gave a great talk. And I think that struck out to me was that he recommended that he said that every community preservation committee in every town and municipality must have one statutorily required public hearing. And he suggested that the best way to do that was to have it in the early part of the year, before the Community Preservation Committee had any applications whatsoever to consider. I think that was a tremendous suggestion from a person that probably has a lot of experience in running this. And I hope that, maybe some way this town can consider that. That brings to mind the fact that Toby Arsenian pushed for years just to get hearings on anything at any time and was given a rough time. So I hope that'll come about. I want to speak in regards to those hearings that the Government and Bylaw Committee, which recommended unfavorable action on, I think it was about 90% of the citizens' petitions, had no hearings whatsoever before they voted. So I think if you wish to take their opinions and use them as a basis for your own recommendations, you would do well to have public input before you do that. I strongly suggest you have hearings on every citizen petition so that you get the full import of what people think, as well as the Government and Bylaw Committee. Finally, and seeing as there's so little time to do it, you won't be able to do it this time, but should be something that should be a future policy. And finally, there was a vote on a term limit petition that one of the justifications by one of the members to deny or to recommend unfavorably was he said he thought it would be a snowball's chance in hell of the selectmen passing this on to the state legislature, even if it passed town meeting. Given that that was the rationale for a vote, I think it should be made clear whether or not the selectmen would indeed hold hostage any petition, citizens or any otherwise that passed by town meeting from further statutory reviews. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Z. All right. Any more public comment?
No other hands up, Mr. Chair.
All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Selectwoman Wilkinson,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.